Dominion. That's what China wants. And now it has the potential to supersede America as the world's leading superpower. That's according to a new report by the House Intelligence Committee. The big question, will it lead to a military showdown? Dale Hurd has that report.
This is video from the Chinese military showing a simulated attack on America's Air Force Base on the island of Guam. Meanwhile, during a simulated attack on a Pacific island this week, U.S. military personnel wore this patch on their uniforms, showing a drone over China. The war drums in the Pacific are building. With the U.S. standing up to Chinese expansionism in the South China Sea and fighting back against China's attack on the American economy and its security, it's raised fears the two nations could be headed for a military showdown. Some say China has sought to dominate an economically weak post-COVID-19 world through increasingly aggressive behavior. 20 Indian soldiers were killed this summer in a surprise cross-border attack by the Chinese army. China has clashed with its neighbors in the South China Sea by claiming most of it for itself, and there are fears of war between China and Taiwan. China has been looting the U.S. of intellectual property and military secrets on a colossal scale. FBI Director Christopher Wray says his bureau is opening a new Chinese espionage case every 10 hours.
The greatest external threat that the United States faces over the medium and long term is the threat by the regime in China today, the Chinese Communist Party, led by General Secretary Xi Jinping.
And Secretary of State Pompeo says China is set on world domination, but he says the Trump administration is determined to stop it. Dale Hurd, CBN News.
Well, retired Brigadier General Robert Spaulding is a senior fellow with the Hudson Institute. He joins us now to talk about the China threat. And General, thank you for being with us. What do you make of this report from the House Intelligence Committee?
Well, you know, I got chills reading the report because this is something I've been pushing for since 2015. The intelligence community has been completely focused on the Middle East and not on the threat from the Chinese Communist Party. The resources, the training, the language ability, all of these things were not capable to the vast armada of information, influence, intelligence collection that the Chinese Communist Party is executing, not just against America, but at democracies everywhere.
Well, we've got to project power, but do we have enough ships? Well, we've got about less than 300 ships. And do they have more ships than we do now? Does that make a difference?
They have more ships than we do now. They have carrier-killing ballistic missiles. They have thousands of ballistic missiles. We haven't built any ballistic missiles or long-range cruise missiles in the region because of the Intermediate Nuclear Forces Treaty we were in with Russia, even though they were cheating. So the president pulled out of that in 2019. I'm hopeful that we begin to build the kind of cost-effective deterrent capability that allows us to keep the Chinese Communist Party at bay.
Well, how do we, nuclear war is unfakeable. We have those Polaris submarines that are loaded with nuclear weapons. Is that enough to deter China? Does China actually have ballistic missiles, and have they gotten the MIRV technology by any chance?
Well, I think one of the things that's happened is that nuclear weapons have been de-emphasized in terms of countering countries like China and Russia in the United States. And we need to understand that these are important components of our defense strategy if we want to prevent a war in the Pacific, just like we did during the Cold War with the Soviet Union. We used nuclear weapons to basically threaten them, to keep them at bay. This is something that we're going to have to do with China because it's their backyard, and they really, quite frankly, have little fear of the neighbors in the region. So it's up to us to really work with our allies and partners to deter China and deter the conflict that could be potentially spurred in the Indo-Pacific.
Well, there's no question they're trying to move into the South China Sea and exercise hegemony in that area. What do we do to stop them? For example, could we do some kind of an attack on their infrastructure, a cyber attack? Could we go after them that way rather than nuclear?
It's far more effective if we build up both the economic competitiveness, but also the independence of the countries in the region, just like we did with Europe with the Marshall Plan during the Cold War. We need to be much more effective at building the resiliency and economic capability of our allies and partners in the region. And when we do so, we're able to counter the Chinese Communist Party. Their primary weapon is to go into societies, influence elites through graft and bribery, but also to undermine the society, social cohesion through social media and the internet. They're doing that to the United States right now. And we called for, in the national security strategy, a secure nationwide internet for the United States to protect the American people from this. It has to happen for other democracies as well.
Well, right now, they're in the South China Sea, and they may be threatening Taiwan. What if they make a move? I mean, what is the United States? What are our options? What's 1, 2, 3 can we do about it?
Well, right now, they've been built up an incredible imbalance of military power in the region. We would be very hard pressed to do anything about it right now. It's important that we start to work on this. I think the House Intelligence Committee report is a wake-up call for us, and I think we need to get busy.
Have we got enough time?
There is enough time, and quite frankly, the Chinese Communist Party wants to continue to get American technology and money, and they are trying to stay connected to the globalized world. In order to do that, we can use that to our advantage, to put pressure on them, to keep them out of our society, but also to take the time to really build up a deterrent force in the Indo-Pacific. We don't want war. Right now, the Chinese leadership doesn't want war either because they want to continue to steal from us. But over time, they're going to become emboldened as we do a better job of protecting our society from their influence.
General, we've looked about this so-called EMP attack that could fry our electric grid. Can we do something like that to them? I mean, do they know that's hanging over their head? Is that something that we've got in our bag of tricks?
Well, unfortunately, what the Chinese Communist Party has been doing over the last 2 to 3 decades is really strengthening their critical infrastructure in China, while in the United States, we have basically been neglecting ours. So we've focused on building up the joint force, fighting abroad. We haven't, invested in a secure and resilient internet or a secure and resilient electrical grid, in spite of the many reports saying this is an incredible danger for the United States. The president needs to be focused on rebuilding our infrastructure, rebuilding and strengthening our economy and our manufacturing in the United States, and investing in science and technology. These are things that the Eisenhower administration started to prepare us for the Cold War. It got the Eisenhower National Highway System, and we need a digital superhighway that secures America's data from the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, you think we've got one more time? And then this is the last question. Have we got time to get it done?
We absolutely have time to get it done. It's just time for us to really buckle down, fix the challenges that we have in terms of national security, strengthen our homeland defense in the electrical grid, in the internet, protect our civilians, protect them from influence, protect our economy. And I think if we do those things, it's not the military right now that's a challenge. It's our homeland security in terms of our resilience and the prevention of influence.
General Smalley, thank you so much for being with us. And ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about this over and over and over again. Our electrical grid is so vulnerable, and the amount of money to fix it is pennies considering the billions, the trillions we're spending. A few $1 billion, and we can harden our electrical grid. But if there's an EMP blast and suddenly our electrical grid doesn't work. And the general was talking about the internet. And if that's a compromise, we will be in terrible trouble. Think about all the transfers of money that take place on the internet and all the financial data that's there. And if that gets compromised, we're in a heap of hurt. I mean, you don't have to go to nuclear war. I do not think that God is going to allow the nations to have a nuclear war. I just don't think that's going to happen. But these other things are very real, and it's time we spend money on this. We're spending all kinds of money on COVID relief and so forth. a little bit spent on hardening the electrical grid and hardening the internet would be so important for America. And the general said, and I totally agree, there's a little time left, but not a